He's been described as the king of South African crime fiction. And he's not just popular here. His Benny Griessel books are some of our best exports. I'm joined now by our resident book reviewer, Andrea van Wyk. And you had the pleasure of interviewing Deon Meyer this week. That must have been quite a treat.
Absolutely. Well, it's luckily for me, it's the second time that I've had to interview him. Such a lovely man. And he's great to talk to. A lot of writers are quite shy, especially camera shy, but Deon is just, he's warm, friendly, generous, and always willing to talk about Benny Griessel.
And he's just released his latest book in English, The Last Hunt, I believe it's called.
Yes. So the Afrikaans version was actually out, I think it was last year already. It's called Prey. They tend to change the titles. I'm not sure why when they translate it to English. So The Last Hunt is finally out, though. It's about... It's once again Benny Griessel, our favorite Hawks detective, and his sidekick Vaughn Cupido, and they have to solve a cold case. An ex-police officer has been, well, what looks like thrown off a train, the Robus Rail, which is obviously the most luxurious train in the world, and they now have to try and solve this case. But what is really interesting to me is that one of the big themes is state capture, and I asked him why he explored this.
Let's take a listen.
From the word go, we wanted to make a very South African series. We wanted to use South African cast. We wanted to showcase this beautiful country. We shot all the way from Limpopo down to Cape Town, and we are extremely proud of the final product.
All right, what we heard there was actually the incorrect bite there, but what he was talking about there was actually the series trailers that's currently on.
I'm loving that. I'm absolutely loving that. My husband and I settle down every Sunday evening to watch it. It's beautifully filmed, based on one of his much earlier books, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. So it's actually not a Benny Griessel book that it is based on. It's one of his other characters called Lemmer, and it's very interesting. It's about a terror attack that will possibly take place in Cape Town and how a bunch of investigators have to try and stop this from happening.
It really is wonderful to see it come to the small screen. Let's see if we've got that bite about state capture and his latest book. Let's see if we've got it lined up now.
It's really in our faces, wasn't it? But by the time that I started developing the book, this was what all the news in South Africa was all about. And I must admit that I was furious about what was happening in South Africa. As an author, traveling all over the world, doing a lot of interviews, and especially in Europe and North America, most of the interviews that I do are 50% political. And I've always regarded myself as a staunch ambassador of our country, telling the world how beautiful our country is, trying to get more tourists to come here because tourism is our biggest job creator in South Africa. And the way that state capture was undermining everything that I believed in, everything that I stood for, made me very angry.
Very passionate South African, and interesting how he weaves very real issues into his novels.
Absolutely. I also asked him about why Benny Griessel was so popular all around the world, because his books get translated into multiple languages, and weird languages like Bulgarian and Hungarian. He's very popular in France, popular in Germany, popular in the States. Some of America's biggest crime writers like Michael Connelly endorses him. So he is very popular overseas, but I wanted to ask why Benny Griessel was so popular, why he thought that.
Let's take a listen.
I must admit that I don't really know. You know, I think it's probably because Benny is very human. He's a very ordinary guy. He's no superhero. He's got his frailties. He's a recovering alcoholic who sometimes falls off the wagon. And I can only hope and think that it's his humanity that resonates with people. He's just a normal, ordinary cop, dedicated, hard-working, battling all the normal demons of everyday life. He's got a complex personal life, and I think people can relate to that.
So true. Real and flawed, yet they do powerful and important things.
Absolutely. One of the great things about Deon Meyer is that he's so versatile. So we spoke about Trackers, the series that's currently on, and he's written movie scripts as well. But one of the things that a lot of people might not know is that he's also a fantastic photographer. He loves taking pictures of the Karoo, and sometimes when he travels places like Paris. But I thought we should take a look just at what he's able to do with a camera, and I asked him why, for example, the Karoo has such a special place in his heart.
I think you either love the Karoo and you feel its magic, or you don't. I know a lot of people who can't stand the Karoo. I can just remember, even as a young boy, driving through the Karoo and thinking that it's a magical place. It resonated with me. I can hear the music of the Karoo. And in later life, when I started doing a lot of off-road motorcycling, the Karoo was the ideal place to go and explore. And my love for that area, for that region, just grew. And you know, it's a poetic place. It's a place full of stories. I think that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. The landscape tells a story. The people still have the time and the inclination to sit on those big stoops and tell you stories. The people are hospitable. They are the stars. There's the incredible natural beauty of that area. Very desolate, very sparse, but incredibly beautiful.
Those photographs are beautiful. It reminds me a little of a Pianiev painting, the drama in it. Huh?
Yes, absolutely. If you just look at the clouds and the dark skies and the people that he takes photographs of, absolutely marvelous. And he's got a bit of a following on Instagram for his photographs. So I recommend, if you like his photographs, to follow him on Instagram, because they're just so stunning.
I love what he says about sitting on a big stoop and having conversations and telling stories. That sense of the Karoo that he captures in these photographs, but also, you know, it obviously inspires his writing as well.
And he lives in the Karoo, so he doesn't actually live in a city. He lives in a small little town called Loxton, which actually features in Trackers. So he's really into the landscape. Like you said, it could be very well paintings. So, but I think, you know, that there's a sense of the artist in him. So it's not just literature, it's television, it's the arts, it's photography, and I think that's part of what makes him so magical. And I think his artistry informs his books because they're so descriptive. You really feel like you can hear the characters speaking, that you could see the actual landscape. So I think Deon Meyer is just one of our finest exports, our finest writers, our finest photographers, perhaps.
And of course promoting the many wonders of South Africa in that process, and just that's probably why it's captured the international imagination as well, his books.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, there's something, like I said, something magical about all of this. And I think that it showcases South Africa, and that's part of why people abroad are so interested in it.
Did Deon tell you why, what he's up to next and what he's doing at the moment?
Absolutely. He is busy with his next Benny Griessel book, which he hopes to be out next year. Unfortunately, it's going to be Afrikaans first, as usual.
You read it in Afrikaans, don't you?
I do. I think if you're able to read something in the vernacular, you should. But his English translations are very, very good. So I don't think that you're missing out on anything if you're only able to read in English. The only thing that's sad is that you always have to wait for it.
Yes, exactly. Wonderful. Andrea, thank you so much for telling us all about the amazing talent of Deon Meyer, and we'll chat again to you next week.
Absolutely.